Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome on over. Another episode of the Speak the Truth podcast. It certainly appears as if we have caught Brown University lying through their teeth. Well, maybe not Brown University, but the officials, everybody involved with this investigation. When we got told there was 0 cameras in the classroom, that the other side of the building is the place that ended up having cameras. It was the older half of the building. You guys might remember that. And I'm going to walk you guys through how I ended up figuring this out. And it really, truthfully, wasn't all of that hard. And it all started with Fox News sharing this today. It says a look inside classroom 166 where Brown University gunmen opened fire. Interesting. So we're going to walk through, number one, where I ended up finding this information at. And I'm going to show you guys how I found it. It's really not that difficult. But all of this happened because Fox News ended up sharing this photo right here. This one. And to take you guys back on a walk down on frickin' memory lane about what they actually had said about this classroom and what they think, ended up occurring. Give me one sec while I pull this video up. I'm kind of jumping this. I don't want to say like impromptu manner, but it's almost impromptu manner because I am just so frickin' livid with this. Let me get this video up on the screen and share this, because not only did this incident occur where they're saying, like they said, there was no class, like no camp here. Just listen, and then I'm going to show you what the guy yesterday screamed at them, where he was, ladies and gentlemen, you're about to be livid.
We have 1,200 cameras located throughout the campus. We don't publish the locations of the cameras. That would give a map to somebody to evade detection on the cameras. So that would be counterproductive to do that. There are cameras in this building, and as I answered the previous question, we have turned over all evidence that we are holding at Brown to law enforcement and are cooperating fully with them.
So you're saying there's cameras in the building. I was told yesterday there wasn't cameras in the building. The Attorney General said, old building, no cameras, attached to a new building with cameras.
I believe he said that there were two different.
The Attorney General said, old building, no cameras, new building with cameras.
Different phases of the building that might have 2 different levels of technology. Again, all video imagery has been turned over to law enforcement.
But for some reason, he doesn't answer him directly, saying like, yeah, there is cameras in that portion of the building. He just says all video imagery ended up getting turned over. And then yesterday, this man was freaking pissed, like absolutely insanely pissed off. I want you guys to listen to what he had to say here. This man, this reporter, this local broadcaster claims that he has a friend who is a detective who said that they do have it.
It's elective to turn out for a study session. So we don't know exactly what fraction of the overall roster turned out for voluntary review session.
So there's no physical log, just to clarify?
Law enforcement is working to reconstruct that, but there would not be a formal log.
The camera in that building, they Brown put off because the sanctuary city law that we have, you don't want to record illegal immigrants, and you don't want to provide the footage to the FBI or immigration authority. One camera in that building, it come out from your detectives, they're a friend of mine, they're angry at this investigation that these people in Brown University put the camera off, they can identify that person. You imagine how the family want to go through?
Sounds like he said that there is a camera, and his friends, who are a detective, said that they can identify. And imagine what the hell the family's going through. Now, other people are saying that maybe he claimed that they ended up pulling the camera. Kind of hard to make out with his accent. I do have a friend that is trying to get in contact with him in order to have this discussion to see exactly what those detectives said, because the world is a little bit confused. But one thing is for dang sure. Yeah, you guys need to hear that again? I'll play it for you again when he came in.
Enforcement is working to reconstruct that, but there would not be a formal log.
The camera in that building, they Brown put off because the sanctuary city law that we have, you don't want to record illegal immigrants, and you don't want to provide the footage to the FBI or immigration authority. One camera in that building, it come out from your detectives, they're a friend of mine, they're angry at this investigation that these people in Brown University put the camera off, they can identify that person. You imagine how the family want to go through?
Sound like he said they can't identify the person. And because of sanctuary city laws and all of that other crap, that is what they're hiding behind. And that would make sense if they're cooperating with the feds and they don't want to turn that stuff over. Now, I could be completely and totally wrong here, but that's exactly what it sounded like. But here's the problem. And it goes right back to what I was sharing with you, what Fox News ended up coming out with, which is this photograph right here. And there's some really interesting stuff inside of this photograph, namely a camera, what appears to be a camera, right over top of this television screen in the back. This one right here. Looks like there's a camera right over top of that television screen. I'm not the only one that thinks that. I'm pretty sure Walter Kurt ended up putting that out as well. And we all think that they just kind of look like him. But the problem is I took that image in that Fox News shared, and I dumped it over into Google image searches. And it not only came up with the exact same classroom that Fox News ended up sharing, 166, but it gave like a little different portion of it to where you can see this brick wall that's up and over to the right. So I don't know where Fox got their photo from, but this one is from the university. This one right here is from the university. So is this one. Also from the university, showing the room. Now, this one appears to be a little bit older. It doesn't have the TV over the door. It's a little bit crappier of a shot. It was up over on their Facebook page. But I noticed something. I noticed that these two images between this one and this one appear to be taken from pretty much the exact same location. Now, the odds that a student is capable of doing that, slim to none. I do understand it appears to be the most elevated position in the classroom, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And maybe the photo that Fox has is a newer photograph of where I don't know, they had remodeled the classroom or something, pushed that wall back, added more chairs. It doesn't really matter, but we can see that you have vaulted ceilings and all that, and it is the same classroom. And Google, as a matter of fact, when you ask it about that image, it says image shows the interior of classroom 166 in the Bruce and Hawley building at Brown University, which was the scene of the mass shooting. Now, the question is whether or not there's cameras in that room, right? I think that would be the question that we would all want to know, whether or not there was cameras, and especially whether or not those cameras were rolling at the time. Yeah, he said it was an old building and there wasn't cameras, but here's the problem. You want to see the smoking gun? Like the absolute smoking gun on this freaking crap, and it ain't just me. It's right here. Barris and Hawley 166 at Brown University is a Zoom room equipped with installed cameras and microphones to support hybrid learning, including the capability to broadcast and record lectures. So it turns out there is cameras in there after all. And the question is because it was a study session, who is leading the study session? Was there cameras recording during that study session? Were they broadcasting the study session to other students that weren't available to attend? All sorts of questions now need to be poured out, because not only that, but we have all of these other freaking images and stuff that are coming out of there. Let me go over to Walter Kurt, because I believe he has a little bit better of a shot than I do when it comes to showing these cameras. Was it him that ended up having it? Not sure. Hold on, wait. No, it wasn't him. Same image, but again, right up over here, over top of this, there's people have zoomed in, and they're saying that there's definitely a camera on there that you can see. And so this is a bit of a problem that we have going on. And then new information that ended up coming out yesterday for this investigation. Let me grab this for you guys. This ought to blow your dang minds as well. That the fugitive task force was on the ground the day before the shooting took place. And we know that because Brown University Public Safety put out the two messages that are behind what's blown up on your screen. In the first message, it told people that the feds were on the ground and that somebody had claimed to be a fed and had actually placed a student in handcuffs and was like detained him for quite a period of time on the 12th. And they put out the public safety message because they had people running around campus area that they hadn't confirmed as feds that were placing people in handcuffs. Then later, they end up putting out the following message. It says, Brown University Department of Public Safety has been able to confirm the identity of the individual who was detained, who detained a member of the Brown community earlier today. It was a fugitive task force officer who mistakenly identified the community member as a suspect that they were searching for. Rather interesting. So now we have all of these things. We have them originally coming out and saying, nope, no cameras in the building. None. Then we have them kind of walking back on it, saying that, it's variance in technology. Then we discover yesterday that there was feds on the ground the day before this took place, that they were actually putting people in handcuffs. The fugitive task force was on the ground the day before this, putting people in freaking handcuffs. Handcuffs. And it bothered the university to the extent that they put out public safety warnings. Then the next day we have the shooting unfold. Now, what makes this even worse, in my opinion, what makes this absolutely even worse is the feds ended up dropping a map, local authorities yesterday ended up dropping a map of the locations where this man had walked through. So think about this. If they're lying about the position of cameras within the building, or they're not being forward, or maybe they just don't know, maybe they're just that freaking incompetent that they misstated themselves. This is a map that they put out of the shooter before. Suspects, persons of interest. Everything in green on that map is the area that he walked before the shooting. Everything in red is after the shooting. And I talked about this last night. That right up over here in this corner, this apex of the corner, this corner right here has 3 security cameras on it. And you're about to know why. It's got 3 cameras for the university. 3. Not 1, not 2, but 3 cameras. 3. In their own freaking words, in their own digital map that they end up putting out, they show that the guy walked that route. They show it. Now, the troubling part is that we also got this map that shows camera locations on the freaking campus. And this route right here, this is the Barris Hawley building that the shooting occurred in. The guy allegedly traveled this route through this intersection right here. They showed it on the map. Don't make me pull it back up. They showed it on their map. He walked down this road right past 3 freaking cameras that show that they are covering that area. 3, not 1, not 2, but 3. And inside the classroom now, we know there's 2 cameras. And that blue square that I have up on the screen is there for a reason. No, it's over 1,200 cameras now, allegedly, that they have on the campus. Like, allegedly 1 camera for like every freaking 8 students or something, or 40 students. Like, it's ridiculous. But there you have that blue search area that they were up there, where local authorities and the Bureau were both spotted at. And they had originally roped off that entire little blue area, and they had a freaking dog out there yesterday, which confirmed by a guy on the ground. They had a dang canine officer still on the ground out there. Battlefield says, I'm lost. Is there a conspiracy on this that I've missed? Yeah, bro. Yeah. Let's take the fact that they said that that all of the footage they have that they've shared. And here we have a corner covered by 3 freaking cameras that they claimed yesterday that the suspect walked through. And it is readily apparent that those cameras should have captured that individual walking through there. 3 cameras on that one. Inside the classroom, 2 cameras that Google is aware of. And we don't know whether or not they were broadcasting or not. And it definitely looks like a security camera was placed over the door inside the classroom. That's for dang sure. Fox McCloud says, day 5, no bolo, no person of interest. Agreed, 100%. Day 5, no bolo, no person of interest. Neil Russell says, go help them out, man. Dude, I would if I could. But again, I'm no longer, I guess I'm certified, but I'm not a commissioned peace officer, nor am I going to work for the frickin' feds or local police ever again. This is why we tune into the news, Daddy Matt. Love you, bro. Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Don't worry, I'm not done raging yet. Matt, I have 8 other pictures of that lecture room, but can't upload into Discord. Yeah, well, all you got to do is go over to Google. You can take any of those images that I shared and dump them over into Google, and it'll pull up a bunch of images of that lecture room. Now, the crazy part is I tried looking up to see if I could find like a room map or anything like that from over inside the lecture hall or over inside that particular building. I couldn't find a room map. Ramblin' Ryan says 1 camera per 9.166 students. That sounds fairly reasonable. This to me is one of the biggest giveaways. It also came out yesterday that a freaking like Palestinian activist group came out, or excuse me, not a Palestinian, but like, I guess it was the Palestinian activist group. It came out and asked the university to basically turn off all of their damn cameras. And so now the direct question that needs to be answered is whether or not they did that. Because not only do you have a sanctuary city, but you have them being sent a letter asking them to turn off the cameras this summer, basically to protect illegals. In my opinion, it's to protect the pro-Palestinian activists from causing mayhem on the campus. And this gentleman walked right through 3 of those damn cameras. And what's worse is that we now know that there was cameras in that freaking classroom. Not a question anymore. There's cameras in that classroom. 100%, there was cameras in that classroom. At least as far as Google can tell and as far as I can tell, it certainly appears that there's cameras in that classroom. Mary Dean says, Matt, one of the suspects has ties to Wisconsin. Are you going live on Discord? I don't know about suspects. They haven't named a suspect in this yet, Mary. Not that I'm aware of. There's no named suspects that have came out so far. They have released images and things of that nature that have came out of there, but that's it. They haven't gone as far as to name suspects in this. And that is one of the biggest problems that we have is like, how incompetent are these freaking people? Like, seriously, how incompetent are they? Listen to this.
Doesn't make sense for many people. Just want to say that.
Okay, I have a question for.
Oh, gosh dang it. Listen.
So I asked this question out of deep respect, but I asked it for a lot of parents who are frustrated who've reached out to me, so please keep that in mind. And they want to know how a school with a $9 billion endowment does not have cameras on one of the older buildings at the edge of the campus where this happened, not even in the front door, who's coming and going. Now, they asked this question knowing that the shooter may have done whatever he wanted, but the cameras, A, would have deterred, or B, captured a better look at them, and we wouldn't be here today 5 days out. I want you to explain that because there's a lot of parents who are wondering, where are you investing your money?
Yeah, I appreciate that question, and I want to reiterate, as our president did, that supporting our students and communicating to the parents, to our community about our support is of utmost importance. We have 1,200 cameras located throughout the campus. We don't publish the locations of the cameras. That would give a map to somebody to evade detection on the cameras. So that would be counterproductive to do that. There are cameras in this building, and as I answered the previous question, we have turned over all evidence that we are holding at Brown to law enforcement and are cooperating fully with them.
So you're saying that
So now he says there are cameras in this building. But when they clarified it, it was in an older section of the building, and if he had gone the other way, then things would have been captured. That would have came out like the first or second day.
you're saying there's cameras in the building. I was told yesterday there wasn't cameras in the building. The Attorney General said, old building, no cameras, attached to a new building with cameras.
I believe he said that there were 2 different phases of the building that might have 2 different levels of technology. Again, all video imagery has been turned over to law enforcement.
So now, because I know for a fact I heard the same thing that guy did. I'm going to pull up the video because it's got to exist here. I'm going to find that sucker because I'm quite positive that's what he said. That's the professor talking about it, who is up there. And we know that they have the other ones that are over there. I might have to go back through my old images. Police chief is also a suspect as hell. I believe it was his nephew that ended up getting arrested for having being one of the biggest fentanyl dealers in the city. According to reports that, ended up coming out like during the trial and everything, that if this guy, his nephew would have gone to Boston and been dealing fentanyl, he would have been like the largest fentanyl dealer in Boston. Now, the crazy part about it is that I believe it's this man's brother that was a sergeant at the time who happened to be in charge of the narcotics investigations unit over for their police department. And when they conducted the investigation into that nephew, guess what? They didn't find any paperwork on him whatsoever. So the narcotics unit found zero information on the nephew that was dealing fentanyl. Good question. How did that end up happening? Like the feds end up busting this guy. He caught the attention of the feds, but his police department, zero information on it whatsoever. Zero. Zip. Zero. Zilch. None. According to the investigation stuff that I read on it, they weren't able to, like, their narcotics unit, who nothing. That's beyond suspect as hell. So I think it's pretty fair that people are asking questions about this.
Let me try to explain that. So, as President Paxton knows, there was a major addition put on that building within the last 5 years or so. That is a modern building attached to a much older one in the back. So, it doesn't come as a surprise to me, at least, that there are cameras in the newer part of the building. And there is video footage, okay? So there's the back part of the building, old part, and front part, new part. The shooting occurs in the old part, towards the back, out towards Hope Street. In that older part of the building, there are fewer, if any, cameras in that location.
Fewer, if any. So here's your AG saying fewer, if any. If any. If any, meaning we don't know, probably none.
I imagine because it's an older building. So as students are fleeing the area of the shooting into the new part of the building, there are cameras in that brand new building that show that chaos. But the only video of the presumed, anticipated, suspected, however you want to define it, person of interest, you have it. We would release it if we thought it would be helpful in identifying this subject, because we are relying on the press and public to help get us there. There would be no reason for us to hold it back. We're looking for the best image we can.
Yeah.
Building, there are fewer, if any, cameras in that location.
Fewer, if any, cameras. Fewer, if any. And again, the major issue that we end up having is they state fewer, if any. 100% cameras in there. Now, these aren't security cameras, they're lecture cameras. But why the hell didn't they bring this up and say whether or not they were on or off? And according to Google, there's 2 freaking lecture cameras in that room. 2. Not 1, but 2. 2 cameras in that room. So why are they coming out and stating it? Here we go. Installed and equipped with cameras and microphones to support hybrid learning, including the capability. 2 wall-mounted cameras, multiple wall-mounted microphones, etc., etc., etc. All equipped within that room. Were they on, is the question. And then on top of that, the very serious question that I wish people would start asking is because, okay, we can get away with that. We could say that the cameras in that room may or may not have been turned on. But it should have been addressed. Absolutely should have been addressed, and it wasn't. But the thing that absolutely needs to be addressed is the cameras on this corner that they state, they show on their imagery, the man walked through that corner. Or woman, they, whoever they are, man, woman, female, queer, binary, I have no freaking idea, but they walked through that freaking corner. And there's 3 cameras. And these aren't lecture cameras. These are security cameras. Certainly would appear that way. That's what it looks like to me. Right on that corner. Can we please address this as well? because they're on the map, and it certainly appears that they cover in those directions, coming from frickin' east traveling west and north traveling, or south traveling north. It looks like they're looking in the opposite direction of this arrow and also downwards towards that building. So now we're at this point. And the real question is, with everything going on with the chief and his family, with everything going on like across the board, why haven't the feds came over and freaking taken over at this point? They're in there, they're assisting, they're providing things, they're kicking snow around on the ground. But why the hell haven't the feds taken over? Why? Brown University is so freaking like liberal. And you're in a sanctuary city that's violating federal law. And they certainly have cameras, and according to their own graphics that they share, it shows he walked through a corner with it. And now we also know that there was, in fact, cameras in that classroom. So now we need to figure out whether or not they were broadcasting, whether or not they were turned on, anything of that nature. And we haven't heard anything from any of the witnesses. By the way, that classroom, like you go and you take that classroom and you type it in, it's one of the largest classrooms, if not the largest classroom by capacity in that building. And now we have witness statements that are coming out slowly, and they're saying that they're anonymous. Oh, you know what you probably haven't heard? This one. You just want one that's just going to blow your mind? Listen to this.
Phone.
This came out last night.
Near the White House, just left. Jack, walk me through what we've learned this afternoon about the targeting of Ella Cook, sir.
Well, Steve, thanks again for having me on. And yes, just left the White House, although I wasn't there on this situation, had some other meetings, but the information I received does come from an extremely well-placed source, very high-level source, and someone who has a, let's just say, familial connection to one of the people that have been involved in this case. And the information that we've received, story that's come out of there, is that this was, in fact, targeted, that the assailant came in and fired multiple rounds directly at Ella Cook, and that the story that is coming up, that's being told at least by students on campus and people who are directly involved in this, is that seemed like she was the main target and everyone else was incidental. Now again,
it seemed, hang on, but also,
did everybody hear that? Sobek had left the White House, was talking with somebody intimately familiar with the case. Ella Cook was the target, the same person that we've been saying that forever. All of the statements about like her being shot multiple times appear to be true.
this person, the familial issue, is someone that was wounded, not killed, but was wounded in the shooting. And this is what they told, this is what their story is about what happened there, correct?
This is the story from in the room. Yes, and this is what we're hearing from someone who was, like I said, directly involved in the situation.
And it was no doubt in their mind that Ella Cook was targeted and was actually the reason this it looked like this thing took place, or was the focus of attention by the assailant, correct?
That was the very question I asked. I said, did it seem that Ella was the target? They said yes, Ella was the target. Everyone else was incidental to being in the room. And that I did also ask regarding, was there any familiarity? Did someone recognize the assailant? They said no. And I said, what about these comments about a statement that was made or a phrase that was shouted? And it was unclear. They said it was unclear. Obviously, it was a chaotic situation. Bullets were being fired, but they also said that it seemed like many rounds were fired throughout the situation. That if this was a handgun, would have required reloads or a high capacity magazine, something like that.
Correct me if I'm wrong. The teaching assistant that was running, one of the teaching assistants, I think, that was running the tutorial for the Principle of Economics course for the exam was on, I think, Dana Bash on Sunday. And Dana Bash never asked this direct question. She kind of beat around the bush, but he didn't offer that up. Also, correct me if I'm wrong, I thought
So, this is now the question. Are they just extremely incompetent, or is there just things they're not telling us? Or is it a cover-up? Very good question. You know, I've got this poll running right now for the 2,700 of you guys hanging out in here as we go. 200 of you have voted so far, and out of the 200, 90% of you think that this thing is being covered up. I wonder why. Because they don't even know how many students were in the room. They don't even have a witness list at this point that we're aware of. They're not saying what it is that the guy ended up stating. They know that he said something, but they're saying it's not clear what he said. All of the witnesses are keeping their mouths shut because they're scared shitless. They ended up coming out the following day and saying that there's no longer a threat, which means that they know a reason why there's no longer a threat. We got Posobiec up here on the screen stating that she was, in fact, the target that they had gone after. And yet, not to mention the few, if any, cameras, if any, implying there's not in that room or in that building. Few, if any, cameras. I wonder how the public got the idea that they said there's no cameras because he said there's few, if any, cameras. Meaning there's no cameras. Few, maybe, potentially, if any. And it turns out there's a lot of cameras in that building. A lot. And maybe that camera in that classroom might not have been rolling up, but what about the other ones? What about the other ones that could have been rolling with microphones mounted to the walls that would have recorded the gunshots and would let us know at least how many were fired? They came out now stating that it's not a long gun. It's probably a little one, a pistol, et cetera, but they haven't even told us how many, for the love of God. I'll go ahead and kill the poll right now because 93% of you have came in and stated, 93% of you have came in and stated, you guys think it's a cover-up. Adam DLC, just gifting out $1.99. Appreciate you, brother. Fox McLeod says, just wanted to repeat, we are going on 5 days from a murder that had multiple witnesses and cameras, and still nothing. Nailed it. Blue Line Cyber, coming a brand new true supporter. Sean Hughes says, you mean to tell me that a few cell phone videos and a camera 200 yards away caught Charlie Kirk shooter, but a school with over 1,800 cameras can't catch crap? It's a damn cover-up. It's way more than 1,800 when you start taking it in. I don't even know how I didn't even bother thinking about the freaking classroom cameras. I don't think anybody else did, to be quite honest with you. But then it hit me. That certainly appears, that Fox News photo. And again, this is how it all started. Take this Fox News photo and you dump it in and it pulls up that particular classroom at Brown University. Now, like I said, it looks like maybe the stairwell moved or maybe there's a smaller staircase that I couldn't see. Maybe this one's, closer to the middle, and there's another one up over here against this brick wall that's running up the side. Kind of hard to tell. But certainly, when you look at the wall right here, over top of that TV, appears to be another one. Google said there's 2 in there. That one appears to be a security camera. Tom Bones says, if it's not a cover-up, they're just that incompetent, and either way, it's scary. I agree with that statement, 1,000%. If it's not a cover-up, they are completely incompetent, and it's freaking scary. And now, really, in my opinion, what they really need to answer to is whether or not they did turn off those security cameras to protect peoples that could or might not be illegal. They need to answer whether or not these cameras were rolling inside the classroom at the time and whether or not the microphones were turned on, or whether or not cameras were rolling within that building with microphones turned on so that we can hear the gunshots. Because I'm telling you right now, if you hear on that audio footage somebody just walking into the room, you know, from another classroom, and you just hear a string of gunshots that are going off. Because allegedly they ended up just pumping rounds in this poor girl. And if you hear that, that's more substantiating evidence that she was in fact a target. And then into the fact that the feds were there the day before. Then into the fact that few, if any, cameras, meaning no cameras, were in there. And now we know it's not very few. That's a lot of cameras per classroom. If they're equipped with Zoom and cameras and broadcasting and recording, that's not few, if any. That's a lot of freaking cameras. Then we have a witness that came out that said only 5 shots were fired. They heard 5 shots. He was very distinct about it. And you look in this classroom, like I said, concrete, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and you got 9 people wounded. 9. They didn't say 9 people were shot, wounded. 9 mil flying through all of that crap is going to wound some people. Those bullets are going to fragment and go all sorts of places. Any of you guys that have shot steel on a range know exactly what the hell I'm talking about. We don't know the extent of their injuries. We haven't heard there's multiple people clinging to their lives, etc. Fox McCloud, how come there isn't more ring cameras or whatever camera capturing his infill and exfil from the building? Also very valid questions. Also very valid questions. Why wouldn't there be? Zoom for meetings, not Zoom for focus at a distance. Yeah, and I love it. Look at you guys in there. You guys are spot on. Cover up, cover up, cover up, cover up. That's what everybody says. You can't say that there's few, if any, cameras in a building when you have multiple cameras in one freaking classroom. That is absurd. That is absolutely absurd. That's not few, if any. Well, yeah, I mean, there's like 2 cameras per classroom that are in there. I mean, we could play this game and I could go over to freaking Google and I can now ask Google how many freaking, classrooms are equipped with those cameras. But this one, the important one, according to Google, has 2 wall-mounted cameras. One point towards the lecture area and the whiteboard and the other towards the audience. Interesting, isn't it? Few, if any. That's bullshit. That's a lie. There's not few, if any, cameras. Now, the question is whether or not those cameras were turned on. And the question also is, now that we know that is a lie, whether or not they ended up capturing them on those corner cameras. Because again, in their own freaking graphics, they show it. They absolutely show it. They show him walking through that corner, and there's 3 freaking cameras on that corner. 3 of them. Did they capture it? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm taking the rest of today and tomorrow off. I'm taking personal time. I went traveling this last weekend. I've done all sorts of things, and I'm taking it off. My head is going to explode if I go any deeper. I will be on X. I will be in the Discord if anything comes out. And if I need to, I'm bringing things with me to do an emergency broadcast or news interview. So I will have that type of equipment with me. But I got to cut it short because I do have some travel plans. So I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me for another episode of the Speak the Truth podcast. I'm your host, Matt Tardio. And
we have 12
my peace, love, happiness, ladies.
located throughout the campus.
I'm out of here.
We don't publish the locations of the cameras. That would give a map to somebody to evade detection on the cameras. So that would be counterproductive to do that. There are cameras in this building, and as I answered the previous question, we have turned over all evidence that we are holding at Brown to law enforcement and are cooperating fully with them.
So you're saying there's cameras in the building. I was told yesterday there wasn't cameras in the building. The Attorney General said old building, no cameras, attached to a new building with cameras.
I believe he said that there were 2 different phases of the building that might have 2 different levels of technology. Again, all video